Hey guys, in this video I want to talk about the Mnemonica stack by Juan Tamariz and how you can learn it. Mnemonica is basically a memorized deck stack. It has, really you could memorize any stack, like you could just shuffle the deck and memorize the cards from there, but the reason for the Mnemonica stack and also the Simon Aronson stack is the fact that they have tricks, certain tricks that are tied into the properties of the stack. Like Tamariz has a poker dealing trick where you can basically deal like any kind of hand with conditions that the spectator asks for. All right, so if you're looking for those kind of tricks, you'll have to look into his book, Juan Tamariz's book on mnemonica. But I'll give you some tips and tricks on how to learn the stack because I was able to learn it at one point. How I started learning the stack was through an app on the phone. At the time I had an Android phone, and I found a free app and you could download it, and it would show the card and it would run through all the cards, and you could flip it around and see if you got it right. So it's kind of like flashcards. And if you can find something like that, I recommend, what I did was I did it in blocks of 13. So I started with the first 13 cards, and once I was able to go through those fairly confidently, then I added the next 13, so then it was doing 0 through 26, or half the deck, and then when I was okay with that, then I jumped up another 13 cards. I was doing 1 through 39, and then eventually 1 through 52. I don't know if these apps still exist or if they're free. I don't know if they're available for the iPhone either, if you have an iPhone. So that's something to look into. Now, there's a couple other ways. Sorry, I like to fiddle with the cards too. There's a couple other ways that you could learn the stack, and I actually, before I finished completely learning it through the app, I went into learning it through another method. And the reason for that is I was reading a Harry Lorraine book called Superpower Memory, I think. Gosh, I think he had like numerous of these memory books, because Harry Lorraine was a famous magician, but he was also big into memory and like memory tricks. And so he had like a number of these memorization books, and having like a superpower memory and like a calculator for a mind type of books. And I was reading one of his, and he actually had a system for memorizing a complete deck of cards on the fly. So I thought, well, why not just try to loop that in with Mnemonica stack, because that's basically what you're trying to do, right? You're trying to memorize a deck of cards. So he has a complete system, and there's no way I'll be able to teach it here. You'll have to find it in his book. But basically it's based on like a peg memory system, if you've heard of that term, and you could probably find other resources on it. But essentially, every number 0 through 9 has a letter that goes with that number, and so you would memorize the letter, and then when you had multi-digit numbers, you would just string like letters together, and so these letters would form words. So you could connect words to numbers in your mind. So like, for example, the number 9 is represented by, if I'm remembering right, it was the consonant P or B. So that was actually, if you thought of like a bee, like a bumblebee. So if you thought of a bee, you would connect that with the number 9. All right, so that was like the first step. And then the next step was for every card, he had a way to connect a word to the card. And it was based on using, I know this is going to sound complicated if you don't know what I'm talking about. It was basically using the number of the card and going back to that same system where you had a letter connected with the number, and also using the suit of the card. So it was like 6, the letter connected to 6 is like CH, or the sh sound. And for club, it's the letter C. So you would think of like C and then and that's the word cash. So basically for every card in the deck, you would memorize another word to go with that card. Okay, so 6 of clubs was cash. All right, and then you would connect, I know this is really complicated. So in the mnemonica stack, 6 of clubs is 50, okay? And what you would do is you would connect the word cash somehow in your mind to the number 50, okay? If you were using his system, I didn't use his system for the number 50. I think it would be L and S, which would be, I don't know what that would be. But anyway, I had memorized 50. I thought of my grandparents because they had their 50th anniversary when they were still alive. I remember that. So I would just think of the word, I would see a picture of my grandparents and then a picture of some cash or dollar bill. So that's how I was able to connect the word cash, or 6 of clubs, with the number 50 in my mind. So basically it's an association. What you're trying to do is, it's easier to associate in our memory than to create new memories. So you're associating 2 words together. And so then you can recall, if you think, if I'm presented with the 6 of clubs, I can say, oh, well, that's the word cash. And then I can think, oh, cash is tied to my grandparents, which was 50. So I could just recall it like that. Or if you're presented with the number 50, I could do it in reverse. I could say, oh, my grandparents, and then I would immediately think of a dollar bill or the word cash. Okay? So it could go either way. You could be presented with the suit and card first, and you could think of the number, or the number, and then you could think of the card and suit next. I've also got a link to my blog post on this that goes more in depth, and I'll leave a link down in the description as well. And so that's one way to do it. Now the problem with that method, though, is you have to stop and think. Okay, so it can cause hesitation, which is not always ideal in performance, you know, because in performance you want to be like on the fly, right? You want to be, I mean, you can find ways to kind of misdirect and ask questions if you need to take a second to think about it, but and it is a fairly surefire way, as far as like a backup method. If you do forget the number, sometimes it's easier just to think of the words, and then it'll come to you if the number is not coming immediately to you. So it can be used as like a backup method, but using it as a primary method, I didn't like it 100% for performance, just because you do have those extra steps in your mind where you're thinking about it, and that's kind of like stressful in performance, right, when you're kind of on the spot. So another method that I thought of, and Tamariz kind of touches on this in his book, this is kind of his method in a sense, it's not exactly, but I just thought that you could take a Sharpie and take a deck of cards, and on the back of every card you could write the number, right? And then you could just, as you're playing with the cards, you know, you would you would see a card and then you see the back of it, you could test yourself, or when you're just fiddling with it, or you could put the number on the face of the card right next to, or you could see it right there on the pip. So that's another way. So if you just, played with a deck of cards long enough, you would eventually kind of, just through that repetition, teach yourself. And that's really what it is. Probably the best way to learn mnemonica is repetition, kind of like with the app, or what I'm saying, like write the number on the card. And then another method is like to test yourself during the day. That's just like when you're wanting to learn a language, like you want to keep testing yourself. So I found like one cool method is to look at the minute hand on a clock, and because the minute hands always go right up to 60, so you always be able to get like a number between 1 and 52. And then just see, or if you see any other kind of number throughout the day, and say, oh well, what's the card for that? So you're kind of testing yourself, you're kind of building it into your memory, you're kind of doing repetition, and that's all it really is. To memorize mnemonica is just really repetition, because what you want to do is you want to get to the point really where you are able to hear the card and go directly to the number, or the number and go directly to the card. Like, you don't want to have any hesitation, and that just takes kind of memorization. You just want to connect the card with the number basically in your mind, and have those be like just like instantaneous. There's a couple other methods out on the market. There's some kind of memory mnemonica book with arts that was written, I think, by Vanishing Magic, released it a little while ago, and basically they went through, they claim that they have a system where you can learn a deck of cards in like, or half a deck in like 15 minutes, something like that. I can't remember exactly. And they actually did it with mnemonica too, and they have like all of these pictures where they draw apparently like, I don't know, for the number 11, I think like 2 trees. But anyway, they have a way of where you can create a visual image in your mind. And usually when you remember visual images that stand out to you, that really helps with your memory and memorization. That's another thing when I was talking earlier about connecting two words together. You want to try to make it something that's kind of like outlandish, that will really trigger an emotion or whatnot and help you to remember it better, than something that's like more common that you'll just forget. So the sillier the better, the more outlandish the better it is at remembering it. I think that is about it as far as what I was going to say. I think like Rick Lax came out and with Penguin Magic, and he has some kind of system of memorizing mnemonica, but I think it's basically what I was telling you. I think he just has his own words that he connects together in outlandish ways, because it even says like, if you don't like explicit content, then don't get this, because I guess some of them are a little inappropriate. And yeah, that's so there's a couple different ways to memorize mnemonica. Just keep it's just really about repetition. Either repetition is probably the best way to do it, otherwise you want to use one of those visual memory systems. There's one other way where people will memorize decks of cards using like memory palaces, where they have all these places in their mind from like 1 to 52. Like 1 is like maybe your bed when you first wake up, and then 2 might be the bathroom. That's the second place you go to, and you memorize, you put all of the cards in those different places in order. But I don't know, for me that just seems like a lot. That seems like a lot of places to memorize for a deck of cards, like 52 places. It seems better for like if you're memorizing something like 1 through 10, but not for like a whole deck of cards. But that probably works for some people. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching. Please hit that subscribe button. Get some more awesome magic videos, especially as I get more subscribers. Let me know what you want to see. Hopefully I can release more material. Please hit that like button as well, and share and comment, and check out the website too. And anyways, guys, thanks for watching. I hope this was helpful for you, let me know down in the comments. Thanks.